Hi, welcome to another episode of Meet Me in My Corner. I am Dr. K and I'm your host. So today we're going to be speaking about all things woman empowerment and we're going to be speaking about all things woman leadership. So I've had the great privilege and fortune of being invited to three events that I feel have really changed how I think about myself and also how I think about women in general and us occupying spaces and also, occupying positions of leadership. I have been very blessed that I got to sit in rooms where I could see examples of what that looks like, which makes it easier to believe. It makes it easier to see it being possible for you. But I know not everybody has that opportunity, and maybe sometimes you don't think that you need to be in those types of rooms. Or maybe you find those kinds of events as cliche and overdone. But one thing I definitely want to say is we need to stop putting down events that are all about women empowerment and speaking on, us being kinder to each other and us trying to get to a place where we are very positive in terms of the thinking of ourselves and also the thinking of our community. Okay. You might think that a lot of the things that are being said are cliched or they're overdone, but we need to continuously have these conversations so we can undo a lot of socialization that has happened that has really made us feel not as empowered as we should be. Okay, so I find them to be quite important, and I think that it's not something that we should shy away from. Okay, so if you do get an opportunity to be in a room where you can be, empowered, or you can, you know, um, be in a space where it's all about affirmation, please open yourself up to it. So I just come from an event that was hosted by the Sister Accord Foundation. It's an American-based foundation, but they have spread their wings and they've really come into Africa and now they've come into South Africa. Okay, so they're also in Zimbabwe, if I'm not mistaken, but they're really trying to get their messaging out there and to do more. So the Sister Accord Foundation is founded by a lady called Sonia Jackson Miles, and the whole movement is about changing how girls think of themselves and how they treat and support each other. And I really loved being in that space. I was in a space with people I could never have dreamt of sharing a space with. I mean, I even got to be around Miss Sophia Williams de Brain, who was one of the women that marched for our rights as women, to the union buildings. So, yeah, it was really amazing. And I just felt like we shouldn't be gatekeeping this kind of information, especially if not everybody will get this opportunity. But I think that this type of messaging is important for everybody to hear, no matter what capacity you find yourself in. Even if you don't want to see yourself as like a boss of a corporation or as a founder of anything, in whatever space that you're in, I just want to remind you with some of the learnings that I'm going to share with you, that you are so important and so vital to be in that space, and you are somebody that is of worth and you're deserving of everything that is good. Okay. And I think that once you change up your mindset and you allow certain things like these positive affirmations to become your everyday talk or thought belief, I think that we could find ourselves living in a society that is a little bit more positive. It will take a lot. And just speaking to about Sonia, and I will reference this again when I give you the learnings that I have gotten from all these events. She has this dream of reaching 1 billion girls or 1 billion women, so that we could see our future and the future that my child Nia will grow up in being a very positive place for girls. Okay, but before I go into the learnings, I just want to share a snippet of Nelson Mandela's speech in 1996 on Women's Day. And obviously, speaking about women, So, a representative from the Nelson Mandela Foundation actually shared this on that day, and I was like, I have to share this with my girls. I have to share it. Okay. So, this is the part that I really want to get to you. As long as women are bound by poverty, and as long as they are looked down upon, human rights will lack substance. As long as outmoded ways of thinking prevent women from making a meaningful contribution to society, progress will be slow. As long as a nation refuses to acknowledge the equal role of more than half of itself, it's doomed to failure. Okay, I loved hearing that. Do I think it's in practice now? No, no. But you know what? I think it being there is a reminder that somebody did think of us in that way. And we are able to, take that and move forward with it. But the whole idea of today's episode is just to leave you with something. You don't have to take everything that I'm going to share with you, but I want you to take at least one thing from it and utilize that to bring meaning to your own personal life, and you'll bring meaning to the lives of others. And I just want us to kind of like change our mindsets. But also, this spoke a lot to me, right? So I am inviting you in my corner, and I'm going to share with you the things that I think should become kind of paramount. Okay, so I'll be sharing 12, it seems. Okay, so 12 learnings. So bear with me. Okay, so the first one I'm going to share is that you are worthy of the spaces you occupy. Okay, I know that sounds like so cliche. Oh, I'm worthy. You are. You are. And I have to say this to you because even at the event, something that Sonia pointed out that I even saw in myself is that we continuously apologize for being in the places that we're in. When we, pick up our hands to ask a question, especially if we're in a big room full of other people that are learned, we think that we need to apologize for asking a question, or when we feel like we're going on for longer than what we believe we should, we think that we need to apologize. Oh, sorry, I'm just gonna. And okay, so this for me was like a personal attack. Because I do this a lot. As confident as I might seem, I continuously apologize for where I am and who I am and what I am doing. And it just shows that I don't have security in being who I am. And I have allowed a lot of things to make me believe that I need to, you know, share an apology for me to occupy those spaces. And I also remember there was one time that I was asked by one of Dumela's business partners to do a panel talk, or to be part of a panel talk. And I had no idea what it was all about. He didn't really share the brief with me. And once I was there, I was like, what is going on? Because I felt so inadequate and so unqualified to be in that space when I looked at everybody that was there. Like I was sitting with people from the government who hold very high positions, and I was sitting with owners of like big establishments, and I was just like, why am I here? Why am I here? But I was there, right? And I was in front of the crowd. I was already seated. I was mic'd up. So I used that opportunity. And what I didn't understand is that I was noticed for a reason. He didn't have to have me there. He could have chosen anybody, but he chose me for a reason. And I was well within my right to be there. And even though my story compared to the people beside me might have been a little bit smaller, but it could have had some sort of impact on someone sitting in the audience, and it did. Because my story is a little bit more relatable. It seemed a little bit more accessible, and it's still a story that is unfolding. I am quite young, and I spoke about my journey as a makeup artist and also as a student, and the questions were actually really quite interesting. Talking about like, how do you juggle, being a health professional, but also being in this kind of how can I say it? this kind of like department or area, being in the beauty industry as well. And like, what have you learned from the beauty industry that you have taken with you into, your medical life and vice versa? And I did have things that I could share. And honestly, some people were really happy with me being on in that space. But if I at any point had really decided that I don't deserve to be in that space, I could have easily just asked to be unmiked and then gotten off that stage. And I would have missed out on an opportunity, firstly, to see the little impact that I can make, and also to connect with someone in a different way, because I also got to connect with people after that, which was really amazing, and also what it made me realize, and I did this again, that my journey, no matter how small I might think it is, or no matter how short I might think it has provided me with some tools. And those tools are worthy for me to share with others, and they can provide someone with some sort of skill, or some sort of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, I do have tools, okay, and you can use them. Okay, so the next one is, your talent is valuable even if the world treats you like it isn't. Okay, so I was just reading on, was it the Harvard Business Review? I read a lot nowadays for this podcast. I won't lie. One thing this podcast has done for me is made me read quite a bit. I can't remember if it was if it was on Forbes or in the Harvard Business Review, but I was just reading about how our payment gap as a gender, women being paid much less than men, has made us believe that our talent is not as valuable. So you could hold the same position as a man, but you would be paid less, right? And also, what this article showed is that people actually do believe this to such a degree that you'd find that women businesses would charge less than a man would for doing the exact same services, and women would actually put in a lot more, but they don't see their value. Okay, you need to start seeing your value. I remember sitting down. No, I wasn't sitting down, I was standing. I had someone in my chair, my makeup chair. She's in logistics, and she's in like crazy logistics. I don't know if it's it is logistics. Okay, she's moving petrol, guys. Her and her mom are moving petrol in Africa. It's and they're doing big things, right? And I was doing her makeup, and she looked at me and she was like, "Why do you charge so little for your makeup?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't feel like I charge that much. I just want to also be competitive and all that stuff." She's like, "No. As soon as you charge as little as you do, it tells a person that is looking for your services that you do not have value, or your value is not high enough, right? I'm not saying you must overcharge, but I'm just saying that you're charging too little and you are taking away value from yourself, and people will treat you as such." And I was like, okay. So she's like, "You don't need to be competitive in this way. Your competitiveness will come in, or your competitive edge will be the work that you produce. So in actual fact, you should be charging very similar to your peers, if not a little bit more. And I promise you, it's because as soon as you do that, it changes someone's mindset when they deal with you, because they see you as someone that has so much value. And anybody that's not willing to pay for the price, it's fine. That's not the type of clientele you should have. But you need to position yourself in such a way where you see value in yourself. You've put in a lot of time in this. I can see your setup. I can see everything that you have, using quite high-end products, and you're also using them in a good way and in a proper way. Why aren't you charging? And it's because I didn't see myself as valuable. Okay, I discounted myself. Okay, so if you are in some sort of a business, please look at your peers, especially your male peers, and don't count yourself out. You might find that you're really undercharging, and it's not communicating your value like it should be. Okay, your value is much higher than you have allowed people to see. Okay, so 3, there's strength in numbers and power in collaboration. This took me a very long time to understand this, and I had to really grow up because I am someone that sometimes struggles with jealousy and comparison and all of that, right? I've never ever in my life did anything to pull somebody down, but I didn't always open up my space and, open up my hands to collaborate as far and wide as I should have. I've been blessed that I finally have found myself in that space. Because it's done so much for me as well, right? So as women, we know that we have been socialized to be pitted against each other, okay? So this thing of like, how, and this came up at the event, Sonia's event, she showed us how media publications will always show who wore it best. And most of the time, well, 99% of the time, it's two women being pitted against each other. And we take it lightly, but that's an ideology that will definitely stick with us. It's an indoctrination to believe that we always need to be better than the other, but especially as women, right? Because really, what is that? Who wore it best? Why does it matter? Imagine you going to your graduation and you're so proud to have the suit on, and then a friend of yours puts on the same suit for a birthday, and then someone decides to put your pictures up together and to compare who wore it best. I mean, really, like when I looked at it at the event, I'm like, this is so ridiculous, and we've literally allowed it, right? Even like reality TV shows, you don't see men in reality TV shows where there's discussing their wives and or they discussing their partners, and that's how their value is rated or benchmarked. Like nowadays, like a huge rebuttal or like something that someone will use to offend the other person is to talk about their proximity to men, like, oh yeah, you're not even married, oh yeah, he cheats on you, whatever. I'm like, what? What? That's ridiculous. Even this idea to to be the only one, and no, we are not seeing our value as women, and we are allowing so many people, and we know which kind of people are doing this, to socialize us in such a way that we feel that we are in competition with one another, and we're not. We're really not. We know strength is in numbers, okay? So we do need to collaborate with each other. And this thing of like, if somebody else wins, it means that I've lost. No. And that's where even these things of like the frenemy, if you've listened to the Frenemy podcast, you'll hear that it comes from that and this type of like socialization, like even like beauty standards. It's really putting us against each other's, and it's pulling us apart. And it's quite sad. So then this brings me to number 4. You need to form positive relationships with women, because that is where your success story lies. Ooh, honey, I need to say this, and I had to say this loud. We've also been socialized to believe that women hate each other, and we find ourselves falling into that trap, right? And believing that, and then thinking that we're so cool because we have only male friends and we don't have female friends because girls just hate each other. Girls are just so jealous of me. No, we're socialized to believe that, okay? It's a lot of misconceptions that we're made to believe. Okay, any human being can be jealous of another human being. Men are also, involved in these kinds of things, right? You might think it's petty just because it's two women with each other. Men, I feel they are not willing to really hold each other accountable, and maybe that's why they don't find themselves in situations where it could seem as though, they're being hateful towards each other. Even this thing of like, women can't hold relationships or they can't have long-lasting relationships. That's a lie, guys. That's a lie. That's a full-on lie. Women can have deep and full and meaningful relationships, and they usually do. Right? But we are more willing to lean into the experience of of relationships, and we're not going to keep somebody around that really does not serve us. It doesn't mean that we're hateful. It doesn't mean that we can't keep a friendship. It's just that you are realizing that certain things will work for a certain part of your life, and at some point it just won't work, right? Men stay in very long relationships, and once you like in a very close proximity to men, you'll realize that a lot of the times they're not holding each other accountable, and maybe that's why their relationships are as long as they are. But anyway, it's not about women against men. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I want you to understand that we have been made to believe that we can't have supportive and positive relationships with other women. But I want to be an example to you. I've created this podcast for you, and you have come into my corner and you support me every single week without asking for anything. Every week without asking for anything. You're mostly women. And then we also have Cabello. Cabello, if you listen to this, love you, babe. Okay? You're mostly women. So you definitely are capable of supporting each other. If you're able to do this, why do you think that somebody else can't do it? I have been put in most of the rooms that I've wanted to be in because of a woman. Getting like gigs, like a photo shoot that I never thought I would ever be, a model for. It was because of another woman. And she did that because she felt like I supported her in her parenting, A lot of my success stories and a lot of the initiatives that I've had have been supported by women. And I will continuously ride for women. There was once a time when I can't even remember how old I was. I know it was like primary school time where I was like, oh girls, please, honey, girls are where it's at. Girls are where it's at. Girls are where it's at, guys. Girls are where it's at. Girls are where it's at. Do we have issues? Yes, we do. Do we have issues of like jealousy, mean girl behavior? Have I been a mean girl before? Yes, I have. Do we have like clickiness? Yes, we do. We do. We do. But that does not define us as a agenda. Because there's a lot of things that probably somebody else has done as a woman that you probably don't subscribe to. So does that mean that because that person has done that and they're a woman, that it should describe and define you? No. Okay. And don't let a bad experience with one woman define how you then relate to other women. I promise you to God, there are women out there that are willing to love you, support you, and see you doing good without wanting anything in return. You just need to find yourself in spaces that will allow for that, okay? And also just be kind. I promise you to God, if you're kind, you will attract kindness. There's so much strength and power in being kind. Guys, I got to sit with the CEO of a company that I'm really interested in because she said she saw my smile across the room. She was amazing. She was fantastic to speak to. Beautiful, Miss Sophia Williams-Brain, and I'll continue saying this because she made me so happy, said that I made her feel at home because I kept smiling at her, right? Being kind will open up so many doors, and being kind and receptive to and welcoming of other women will do so much for you. I promise you to God. Okay. All right, let's go to number 5. Don't be comfortable in places that celebrate you for being the only one. Okay, so what I mean by that is you shouldn't be happy to be the only one as a woman. If you get a position, or if you get a spot, or if you get invited to a room and they are continuously celebrating, you're the only woman here, you're the only woman, you're the only black woman. Don't be excited. Don't be okay with that, okay? Instead, you should be okay with being celebrated for being the first one, but the first one of many, okay? You need to be in spaces where you can see that you will see somebody else like you doing well like you did, okay? Because a lot of the times we are being put in places to meet a quota, but remember, you're worthy of the spaces you occupy. So now that you've occupied that space, you're going to change that narrative. Honey, you're not going to just be a quota, okay? Because you are worthy of being in that space. Whatever the reasons or the ulterior motives were, you have now occupied that space. You're going to do amazing things with that space, okay? And you are now going to open up that space for your other girls, your sisters or whatever, right? The woman that you want to collaborate with, the woman that you want to support, the woman that you want to have positive relationships with, okay? Because you must remember, the spaces that celebrate you are one of those spaces that also used to isolate you or used to gatekeep from you, or used to have red tape that kept you out, okay? So don't feel comfortable and don't celebrate that. Instead, celebrate being the first of many, okay? And you'll make sure that many will follow, all right? Okay, number 6, you can lead as a woman. So this one might take a little bit long because I need to explain a lot of things, okay? So we've spoken about socialization, right? And a big part of that is that this is unconscious bias towards women as leaders, okay? Women have this thing where, and oof, I wish I can remember which article said this, but they spoke about a double bind in that women are normally seen as the communal type, right? So we are seen as being very compassionate and giving and nourishing and kind, yada, 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 yada. All those nice and beautiful things, which we do. We do, right? But as soon as we bring that into leadership, you are then seen as meek, you're seen as weak, and you're seen as not a good enough leader, right? What is that thing that they always say, that women are irrational beings and we are illogical? It's not true. Okay, don't believe that. Okay, we do have the capabilities to lead. So now the issue is when you then show the leadership qualities. So when you are assertive, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're not a woman anymore because you're not bringing your communal, side to the forefront. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, she's aggressive, she's a bitch, she's just trying to be a man, all of that stuff. And unfortunately, some of us will find ourselves falling into a trap where we do become aggressive because we don't know how to toe that line. We don't know how to be very authentic and feminine in our leadership roles. And you see, the other issue is that leadership qualities have now been associated with men and not just with leadership. And that's because over time in history, men were the leaders for a very long time, right? So it's now like to have these leadership qualities, you can only be a man. And that's not true. Leadership qualities are just leadership qualities. They can belong to anybody. Okay. But unfortunately, that is some of the issues that we will deal with as women. And I'm also seeing it in my own, leadership role where I was just like literally thrown into it. And when I compare myself to my male counterpart, when I see how he's so accepted and how his leadership skills and side is very compassionate. He's a very compassionate person. And he, I know, would be more celebrated for that. And men are. They're more celebrated for showing those communal qualities. Even in leadership, they're not being seen as meek and weak and, inadequate. And when they're being assertive, they're also being celebrated for that. So they have that, right? But as soon as you bring that to the table, it's so easy for people to then think that you can't lead. Okay. But also, what I want you to understand is that we do have a context, right? And we do need to accept that, especially if you are a woman who will then embark on having children. You will definitely be out of work for at least 4 months. Okay. That's the very least, right? It can definitely be more. Or you won't be working as optimally as you would prior to that pregnancy, and you definitely are willing and able, you're definitely capable, and able of going back to your optimal side, right? But you need to understand that when you do go through that, a man who has your position is more likely to progress faster because they don't have that limitation. They don't, and it's not a limitation, but they don't have that delay, okay, which can really be something that's quite hard for you, right? However, I don't want you to think that this is always a weakness, okay? And as a leader, I think that you should use this to the advantage of other women. And what I mean by that is that you need to then be the policy changer. When you are a woman that leads, you are not going to be that woman that looks down on your female subordinate who has to take 2 days off because of her period pains. No, because you understand that. You're the one that's going to create policies that will allow a woman to have that time and to not be discriminated against, or to not be, counted out of other opportunities because they have that health limitation, So as a woman, I really think that we can lead. We're going to lead in a very different way, and we are not men, okay? And then I also want to share in this point that you need to embrace your femininity, okay? Miss Nolita Fakude shared this at the Sister Accord Foundation event, that she brings 5 shoes to her leadership, right? And she went through a whole list of the shoes. And then at one point, she speaks about how she wears sandals with flowers because that's her femininity. And she brings that to her leadership because she understands that that's who she is, and there is power in that. And as soon as you try to, dispel that or ignore it, it's going to show up. And instead of it being looking like it's empowering because you haven't embraced it, it will look like a weakness, and it will look like a disadvantage when it's not. Okay, remember that as us being the beings that we are, we can multitask. Okay, you are able to also do things with compassion, so that is a power. Okay, that's some sort of a strength, and that's a difference that you can add to your leadership. Okay, please don't think that you need to lead like a man, and don't find yourself being aggressive when you should be assertive. Okay, and also please do not micromanage. Okay, I think a lot of us women, because we're not secure in our leadership, we think that the best way to deal with it is to make sure that we are micromanaging everything, and we, because we don't want to see a mistake happening. No, you can't do that. In actual fact, you'll look very insecure. Okay, and this brings me to the 7th point. You're going to make mistakes, especially in leadership. Okay, because we're so afraid of having this unconscious bias being used against us, and we're so afraid of being seen as inadequate because we already feel that, we are starting from the bottom, we are working against this idea that we're not, meant to occupy that space. We think that we should be perfectionists, and we try to, perfect everything that we do. We don't want to make a mistake because we know that when we make a mistake, we'll be really, held on the spit, to bride. And our male counterpart might not have as much repercussions as us, right? But if you're going to aim for that in everything that you do, you're going to stifle yourself, and you're not going to allow yourself to grow, because mistakes are really where the growth is. And there's no way that you can do something new and completely excel at it, okay? You're going to excel at parts of it, right? But there are some times where you are going to make a mistake, and that's okay. And that's what actually will make you a better leader going forward. Being a perfectionist is not, okay? And I'm not saying you mustn't aim for the stars. Always aim for the stars, but understand that if you're going to have an appetite for success, you need to have an appetite for failure. And this is also where I then spoke about micromanaging, because this is where people who are, dying for that perfectionism will then micromanage their team members, and they will stifle them. And you'll also stifle your projects, you'll stifle your initiatives, you'll stifle your team from actually really growing, and you'll also look like an insecure leader, okay? Very, 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 very big thing here. There's something else I wanted to say to you, but I can't remember it. Oh, also here, right? If you are struggling with this idea of perfectionism and all that, I would highly suggest going into therapy for it. Highly, highly suggested. Okay. And then 8, you need to lead with authenticity. Okay. So this is where the people pleasing comes in. Okay. Um, Always be true to who you are. Don't do things that you know deep down you would never allow yourself to be associated with. Okay. Be authentic to yourself in everything that you do. And this is also how we then bring in don't try to lead like a man. Okay. Um, Allow yourself to make mistakes, but please be authentic. Okay. And this is also where people pleasing will come in, right? Where you are now trying to please everybody, and now all of a sudden the things that you believe in, you're pushing them to the side because you don't want to be disliked. Unfortunately, leadership has nothing to do with popularity at all. You're not going to be the most popular person. I don't think you should be unkind and hated, okay? I think you should be respected in everything that you do. Even if someone disagrees with you, they should feel like they can still respect you for the decision that you have made because they know that you're a principled person, okay? And that's a big part. You need to be very principled, all right? And also, going back to the people pleasing, have those boundaries, communicate them well. Okay, but be authentic in everything that you do. Don't allow somebody to see you being wishy-washy and flip-floppy. Okay, be authentic in everything that you do. Okay, it won't mean that you'll be popular, but it'll mean that you will have principles and you'll actually be respected. And this will really allow you to advance more, okay? Because whatever successes that you have, you will know that it's coming from within you. So you can take those successes anywhere, right? But as soon as you're trying to lead like somebody else and you are just not being truthful to yourself, you won't be able to have a track record that really reflects who you are, and you won't be able to take that somewhere else to assist you, okay? And then number 9, be crazy and believe in yourself. So Sonia shared this, that they say that the person who's the craziest is the person that believes. Okay. So Sonia's story, as I said, was when she started the Sister Foundation, her goal is to reach 1 billion women. And she's doing it. Well, she is going to reach it because she's had that dream, because she's put it out there, because she set her mind to it. She is obviously putting in steps to reach it, okay? So please do not limit the dreams that you have. I do this quite a lot, and this was for me as well. Like, it was a huge thing for me where I just felt like, damn, I have all these dreams, but a lot of the times I tell myself, nah, it's not going to happen. It's crazy. But as soon as I do that, I take away the opportunity to actually, put in the work to get there. And you get to learn so many things in your journey, to getting somewhere, right? And also we had an artist who was there, Khanya Mukhashwa, right? She was doing a portrait of Miss Sophia Williams' brain while the whole event was happening. And then after that, she presented it and she spoke of how she left her job. She was working in a corporate. Oh, no, she was working in interior design. And she decided that she wants to be a full-time artist, okay? And she didn't really have plans, but she decided that, she got off her seat and she said, I'm not going to die doing this job. I'd rather die knowing that I've tried this other thing, whether it fails or not, right? And she spoke about how she really wanted to meet Miss Sophia Williams' brain, but she didn't have an idea of how this was going to happen. No. She put a portrait together and, she was in the room with her. So her dreams weren't really far off. It happened, right? It happened, I think, in 4 years, because I think she did this in 2020. I might be wrong, but she was crazy enough to believe in herself, and it happened. Okay, and it can happen for you. A lot of the times we look at people and we're like, oh my gosh, how do they do this? And we forget that those people eat, shit, sleep exactly the way we do. They breathe in air into their lungs like we do. We are very capable of the things that we put our minds to. The fact that you could even have the thought and the belief means that there's something in you that is possible for you to achieve it, okay? But as soon as you tell yourself that, no, I shouldn't do it, you will discount yourself out of it. And yeah, you'll just miss out on opportunity of learning and getting further, right? Okay, number 10, your purpose must come before the person. Okay, so now you've believed, you have this dream, you have this idea. A lot of us, we make the mistake of then being quite egotistical. Okay, and I love how now it's being shared that ego is edging God out. I love that. Even if you don't believe God, if you don't believe in a God, ego is basically edging your humility out. Okay, edging out community, edging out Ubuntu, those kinds of things, right? Don't let your ego to pollute your mission. When we have dreams, it's not just about who we are, and hopefully it's not. I hope your dream is not to just put yourself out there. I hope your dreams is always to do some sort of something to create some sort of change that can impact society in some way, right? Whether it's in a very small way or in a big scale, okay? But always lead with your purpose. Don't lead with who you are. Don't lead just as a person, okay? You will definitely come to the forefront at some point, right? But in everything that you do, always make sure that your purpose comes first. So, like with me, I really believe in community. And that's why everything that I do is always about community. It's always about supporting somebody and helping somebody. So when I have my events, you will never see me sitting in another place and not engaging with my community because they are my community. I will never put myself before them because I understand that I needed them for these kinds of dreams and initiatives to happen, right? And they are a big part of it. So I need to engage with them. So my attendees or my consumers or people who subscribe to me will always feel the full effect of me, and they will never see themselves as separate from me. And that's something I'll never want. I always want people to understand. And that's why Meet Me in My Corner is designed the way it's designed. I'm not leading with being a doctor because I feel like when I do that, it kind of separates me and it's just like the expert and the client. And that's not what I want. I want you to understand that I'm a girl just like you. I've had a history, I've had a journey, I've had personal experiences that are very similar to yours. I just have a career path that might be different to you, but it doesn't make me better. It doesn't make me bigger, okay? But for this initiative to be what it is, for this corner to be filling up as much as it is because you guys have seen that my purpose, which is for me to connect to you and to have a more connected community, is coming before who I am and whatever labels I might have. Okay, that is not important. All right. And I promise you to God, there'll be more value in you doing so. If you want to become famous, it will happen. I promise you it will happen. But that should not be something that you should work hard towards. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Okay. And then 11, this is something that Sonia also shared with us. An overused strength can become a liability. So think about your strengths. Think about the things that really make you who you are, but also start to think about how you're using those strengths and realize that you can easily be exploited for those, okay? So you need to be aware of them because you need to be aware of when they are being misused or overused, all right? And then the last thing, number 12, is always measure impact against effort, okay? So in everything that you do, you need to always scale your impact against your efforts, all right? So if it takes a lot of effort and it's going to give you very little impact, don't do it. Don't waste your time. And that's also what will help you even with the people pleasing and creating boundaries and so forth. Okay. We're at the end of the conversation, guys. So 12 things that I feel will really provide you with so much clarity on your strength and who you are. I hope this is the beginning, and you will start to realize that you're more valuable than you actually believe. And hopefully we'll get to a place where, we do have a more positive outlook on life and a positive outlook on each other as women. Please don't think that this is a woman against men. No, it's not about that. That will definitely pollute what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to remind you is that you are capable, you're able, you should feel empowered, and you should know that whatever you do on this earth brings us so much value. Okay, but you need to be intentional and you need to start thinking about certain things. But anyway, that's the end of the conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, and I can't wait for next week Wednesday where you'll meet me in my corner. Okay, bye.